welcome back. This is the Financial and Administrative Services Committee meeting for November 12th, 2024. On this committee are Councillors Thiessen, Councillor Bressie, Mayor Clayton, and myself, Councillor Berg. If I could get an adoption of the agenda, please. Councillor Thiessen.
I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
All in favor?
Mayor Clayton in favor.
And that passes unanimously. I don't see any delegations, so reports, service area update with Chief Whiteway.
Thank you, Chair Berg. So a few quick updates for the service area. The finance team has been working hard, of course, to prepare the Q3 report, which I will present later on here this morning. And starting tomorrow, of course, budget deliberations are being held. So those are scheduled for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And of course, residents can follow along on the live stream that's available for those 3 days. In addition, in finance, staff are preparing for year end. So staff in the department do meet with various staff across the organization just to discuss requirements and scheduling for year end. And we are expecting to have our auditors on site later this month to begin their interim fieldwork. Taxation and assessment, we have our assessors starting to wrap up new assessments for the next year. They'll be then moving on to look at permits that have been taken out during the year to finalize. On procurement, as you know, as the year winds down and we are entering a new budget year, there's less bids on the market. However, they've awarded a few that I'd like to highlight. So food and beverage service provider has been awarded to 14 Food Co. This is with the hopes of being open before the end of the year this year, and that is at the Ernie Radburn Pavilion. Awarded artistic ice carvings to Ice on White Festival Society for the event later on, I guess in January, pardon me. The City Hall sign refurbishment is the final, has been awarded to Prairie Signs. And finally, in GIS, November 20th is GIS Day in North America, so just a note there. And also, the IT crew has been, starting the organization user desktops are being upgraded to the new Microsoft operating system, Windows 11. So it's a few updates from the service area. Thank you.
All right, any questions from committee? Seeing none, we'll move on to 4.2, the 2023 tax recovery sale. And again, Chief Whiteway.
Thank you very much. So this report, I'll just introduce Mr. Smith, our Director of Taxation and Assessment, to go through this with you. Mr.
Smith.
Thank you, Chair Berg. So before you today is a report for the 2023 tax recovery sale. This process...
Sorry, my apologies. Chair Berg, I'm going to excuse myself for this. I'm part of a partnership hoping to purchase one of these buildings, so I don't think I should be part of this conversation.
Fair enough. Councillor Bressie is excusing himself from this 4.2. Mr. Smith.
So this process started back in March of 2023 when the tax department filed 138 caveats on properties that had more than 1 year outstanding taxes. So of those 138 properties, 20 properties have not been brought up to date and now qualify for the sale. So in addition to those 20 properties, additional property from each year of 2019 and 2020 have to be added to the sale as there is default in payments in the arrangements that were made with the tax department. So under the MGA, the sale must occur between April 1st of 2024 and March 31st of 2025. And what we've done is we've pushed the date as far along as possible in order to give as much time to those property owners to get caught up. So the 22 properties that are listed account for about $760,000 of outstanding taxes. And the number of properties, if you're wondering, the number of properties that are typically on the sale, the date, are typically none. Typically by the sale date, most property owners or mortgage companies have bringing their accounts up to date. So attached to the report, you'll see the appropriate legislation, the list of properties, and of course the list of reserved bids. And with that, Mr. Chair, we're asking that committee recommend council approve the 3 recommendations contained within the report.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Smith. You have anticipated my annual question of how many typically come up for auction, which is 0. Questions from the committee? Councillor Thiessen.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair Berg. Thanks for the report there, Scott. Typically, this for me is just an easy yes vote, but I do have a question. It came up in regards to building sales and stuff like that. When the city is holding tax penalties against a property owner and it comes to the tax roll sale, let's say property owner wanted to sell that building, but the one thing that was the impetus for that is the city's penalties. Would that be a council decision to remove those penalties or to defer those penalties so that the sale of the building could go forward and then everyone could get paid?
Mr. Smith?
If I can, Chair Berg, yes, it would be a council decision. Administration can't defer or waive those, so it would be a complete council decision.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? No? Okay, I will look for a motion. Anyone? Councillor Thiessen?
Well, I guess so. Since this is going to council, I would move that the Financial Administrative Committee recommend council approve the following. 1, those properties subject to 2023 tax recovery notification as per the attached list be offered for sale by public auction. 2, that the auction be held in the first floor North Conference Room at City Hall on Friday, March 14th, 2025 at 9 a.m. And 3, that the reserve bids for the 2023 tax recovery sale be set as per the attached Appendix D. And I don't have anything to speak to this motion, although I may have something come council to talk about when we get there. Thank you.
Okay. Mayor Clayton, anything? No? All right. I will call the question. All right, we can welcome Councillor Bressie back into the room. And next item up, 4.3, is financial report. Once again, Chief Whiteway.
Thank you very much, Chair Berg. So I'll respectfully assume you've all read the Q3 financial report, but I am going to highlight a few items throughout. So first off, attached to the agenda in Appendix 1, page 3, goes through the third quarter statement of financial position. Financial assets of the city at September 30th are $361 million. Most notably, this is a little bit up from last year, but we are seeing a decrease of cash on hand. This is a result of utilizing reserves as a funding source for 2024 operational expenditures. And we're also seeing a decrease in taxes receivable compared to prior years as we see more residents enrolling in tips in the first half of the year compared to starting after the September tax deadline. When you look at financial liabilities for the city as of September 30th, 2024, they're $227 million. This is a decrease from the same time period of last year. This decrease in financial liabilities is mostly the result of lower deferred revenue and regular repayments made on long-term debt. Net financial assets for the city at September 30th, 2024 is $134 million. This indicates that the city has sufficient financial assets to settle any existing liabilities and, of course, support future operations. Non-financial assets, which are made up of assets not easily transferable to cash, total $713 million for the city. The most significant item within that balance is the tangible capital assets, of course. So overall, the city has total accumulated surplus that will be utilized to support current year and future year services. This position indicates that the city has net resources available to continue providing future services consisting of both cash and non-cash items. Moving on to page 4 and 5, where you'll see the statement of operations for the city at the end of the third quarter. The city's total revenue collected as of September 30th was $171 million. This is an increase of $4 million from the same period last year. And the increase is mostly due to increase in municipal taxes, as well as interest and investment income are offsetting some reductions we've seen within court fines, user fees, sales of goods, fines, rentals, licenses, and permits. When we look at total expenditures for the period ending September 30th, there's 152 million. Again, an increase from around 4 million from this time last year. Increases in expenditures are due to increases in salaries, wages, and benefits due to contractual cost of living adjustments and onboarding of new GPPS employees. Finally, I'd like to review with you pages 6 and 7 of the appendix, and those are the operating variances for the city. Operating variances do result from differences between the approved budget and actual financial results. For the reporting period ending September 30th, the city is projecting a surplus from budget of approximately 3.4 million. This equates to a 1.6% variance of the total city operating budget at 207 million. Departmental surpluses are being forecasted due to new funding opportunities, lower operational costs with a milder winter this year, increased membership sales, and anticipated savings in IT-related costs. These surpluses are offsetting a shortfall in court fine revenues, as well as the lower than expected Cedar Point tenant revenues with previous construction delays and vacancy rates higher than anticipated. Included within management's budget being proposed for 2025 operations, it will be recommended to implement an integrated emergency coordination center with 1.9 million of funding to be allocated from reserves. 700,000 of this reserve funding could be allocated from the 2024 operational forecast being presented today. So in conclusion, for the period ending September 30th, 2024, the city is expecting a surplus from budget of 3.4 million. This is approximately 1.6% of the total city operating budget. The city maintains a net financial asset position and accumulated surplus, indicating there are sufficient resources to support future services. The city is well within provincially prescribed debt and debt servicing limits as required by the Municipal Government Act and maintains sufficient reserves to support fiscal prudency. And the recommendation today is that committee recommend council receive the unaudited statements and supporting information for the period ending September 30th, 2024 for information. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Chief Waitway. Questions from the committee? Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you, Chair Berg. Thanks for the report. Really great. Awesome read. I got a few eyebrows and a few exclamation points and a bunch of thumbs ups. Just a couple questions in regards to the operating variances. Now, we're doing pretty good as far as the community knowledge campus goes. Now, usually we budget that as a loss, but we found some gains. Even inside the gains, what do we anticipate the Eastlink Center / CKC operating loss would be for the year?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Thiessen. I can get back to you. If we take the 2024 tax-funded budget and we'll just add that to it, I'll just have to do that to get what the actual net impact would be.
Okay, yeah, no, thank you. I'm glad that we're saving money there and stuff like that, and hopefully one day we'll operate it as a super positive. I guess my other question, and this is maybe one of those more specific ones, my eyebrow raised when I saw under parks and stuff that we had a good surplus there. I think it was close to 200,000. Yeah, over 200,000, almost 300. So it said increased cemetery revenues were in there. I'm guessing that's the sale of plots to people and stuff like that. It seems like a pretty big number, 300,000. There's other things in there, but what did we take in from our cemetery revenue?
Chief Waitway?
You may not have that.
Thank you for the question. I do not have that exact amount. I will say that you're right in the comment of it's a smaller portion of that surplus where a lot of our We are seeing fleet savings as well throughout this budget, throughout this forecast. But I'll get you what that revenue was that came in.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions?
I have one more, but Mayor Clayton.
Oh, Mayor Clayton, go ahead.
Thanks, Chair Berg. Wanted to talk about full-time equivalents. Can you give me a high level of why it went up from Q3 to Q2 to Q3?
Certainly, through the chair. Predominantly, we see hirings coming in through our GPPS. As well, we are, as there might have been turnover in the last quarter, and compared, we filled some of those positions. We are still maintaining a few vacancies, though, throughout the city.
Yeah, if you look from Q1, though, it's continually climbing, so I was just, okay, thanks.
All right. Back to Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you very much, Chair Berg. Like I said at the end of my opening, I guess, monologue, there's many thumbs up on this, so perhaps I'm just being nitpicky here. I was going under the discretionary expenditures for council and just doing the quick math, speaking on behalf of a colleague, Councillor O'Connor. It says that his budget remaining is only 328 of the 10,000, but the math doesn't add up at all. It's his actuals are 8,172. I think, yeah. So I was just wondering if that was just a mistake or.
So where?
Okay, Councillor O'Connor.
Okay. All right. I guess that's resolved. Anything else? I know Chief Whiteway is going to get grilled for the next 3 days, so I think committee's going to let her off relatively easy. All right. Can I get a motion? Councillor Thiessen.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair Berg. I move that the Finance and Administrative Services Committee recommends Council receives the unaudited financial statements and supporting information for the period ending September 30th, 2024 for information. And just speaking to this motion, I really want to commend every member throughout our organization, especially our financial services and our CFO, for really showing the leadership to try to reduce the impacts to our budget this year and to find savings where we could. This budget is a great example of that, and I hope that the trend continues into Q4. Thank you very much.
All right. Call the question.
Bressie, in favor.
And that passes unanimously. Moving on. Oh, Mayor Clayton.
Thanks, Berg. Since we're on the conversation of unaudited financial statements, I wanted to talk in particular today about surplus. And recently, I've had an opportunity to travel to some other mid-sized cities through the work that we do through the Mid-Sized City Mayor's Caucus, and really what's resonated with me is what we've heard from residents for a very long time, that there are communities out there that have some very nice to see things, extra trees, community enhancement features, and I think that council this term made it a priority through an urban forest strategy to really start to pay attention to our tree inventory, enhance our landscaping, in particular the trees, shrubbery, features in our community, the beautification piece. And today what I'd like to talk about is committee's consideration for establishing a new policy that will take a percentage of any realized surplus at the end of the year, putting it towards community enhancement. So I know there are other municipalities that are using 1% of capital revenue, and I think that's, we count on our capital growth as a revenue stream. What I appreciate would be a different consideration for taking 10% of annual surpluses put towards a community enhancement fund. And so that would allow, when the opportunity arises, when a surplus is realized, that we would have a fund that would be strictly solely for community enhancement. I think primarily it would be for additional tree, landscaping, beautification initiatives. And so what my motion would be today to bring back to this committee for consideration. Do you want it to come back to committee before or to council? Okay, so my motion would be to direct administration to bring back to this committee a policy identifying a 10% of surplus, annual surplus, for community enhancement. So happy to expand on that. I'm looking for administration to bring back the policy, what that would look like. And really, if you look at the many things that are possible, I know administration will come back with some parameters. What's council's role? What is administration's role? There may be an opportunity for our community advisory committee to be involved. And I think, in my opinion, this is a way for us to add enhanced opportunities such as additional landscaping and trees and other amenities to our community without putting a tax without putting it to our tax base. So I think these nice to have things are beautiful. You will see significant impact. However, increasing taxes to see the beautification, in my opinion, isn't good use of people's money that comes out of their monthly bills. And so when we have a surplus, we have that opportunity. It may be inconsistent. The fund will fluctuate every year. This year, it will be approximately $200,000. Next year, it may be significant less. So I'm hoping committee support on this motion to have administration bring back a policy for review at this committee, and then it would be forwarded to council. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Mayor Clayton. Councillor Thiessen.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair Bosch. Thanks for the recommendation, Mayor Clayton. I'm certainly in favor of having a policy to improve the aesthetics and the beauty of our community. My question is perhaps we don't need to create a new reserve. Perhaps a policy may be good enough. So I'm just looking to you because when I'm looking at our other reserves, they may fit that purpose.
My intent was not to create a new reserve.
Okay. Yeah, so just a policy on...
Administration will bring back policy. I would assume that the funds would potentially be held in financial stabilization, but I'll ask the CFO for a recommendation on, the amount, if approved, the policy approved, the 10% would be held in an existing reserve, is my understanding.
Ms. Waitway.
Thank you. We'll research best practice and come back with that information in the report.
And Mayor Clayton, I'm just curious, is this something that you want done in this fiscal year?
Yes.
Okay, so timelines for administration then? CEO Burke?
One thing we'll just have to consider as we go through the budget deliberations is whether there was an intent based on year-end projections. So there are just some things we'll have to just think through here before we get to budget deliberations. If it really was to be realized at the end of the year, if council were to use those before the end of the year, just what the intent was. So that's just something I'll just, besides the motion, we'll make sure that any budget deliberation is respectful of the intent of looking at this.
Yeah, so my thought is that the 10% be the metric, and it comes back to council in a policy if that amount equals $20,000, where the timing is important in my opinion. I'd like to see some of it substantiated this spring of 2025.
Excellent. Okay. Councillor Thiessen.
No, I'm totally in support of this. I think we might have some reserves already dedicated, of which we could pile this in rather than throw it into financial stabilization. But I think it's a good idea. We want to make sure that our community not only looks good, but it feels good. And when it looks good, it feels good to people coming in and to the people who live here. So I think that's a great way of doing it rather than haphazardly. We can find a fund, and councils in the future can determine year from year how they want to improve the aesthetics of their community. So I really like this motion going forward, and I'm pretty sure administration can find something that's already built into our existing reserves. So thanks for the motion, Mayor Clayton.
All right, Councillor Blackmore.
I've noted over the years that other communities, St. Albert, I think is a good example. They take a percentage, a small percentage off of their development fees and put into 1%. And we don't do that, do we? So that's also another option I think we might want to consider. So that 1% in St. Albert goes into public art and public places and public enhancement, so it's not tied. It doesn't happen on the development itself. It would happen anywhere in the city. I've always thought that that was a particularly smart thing to do, and I've raised the issue a couple of times over the years, but if we could maybe think about that at the same time. No rush, though.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Clayton.
In my opinion, they're two completely different approaches, and I don't support that approach. My intent was truly to be on surplus so that it's not affecting revenues, it's not affecting forecasted growth. It's just when there's an opportunity based on surplus, you have an opportunity to enhance your communities.
Okay, so I'll raise my issue at a different time in a different place.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Blackmore. And I'll fully support this, Mayor Clayton, as a person that wants to see our city look and present infinitely cleaner with more diversity and dynamics. It's something that I welcome, and I also welcome the fact that it comes from a potential surplus and not through taxes. So it's something I'll support. And with that, I'll let you close, Mayor Clayton.
Thanks, Councillor Berg. I appreciate committee's support. I think that we've taken great strides in increasing the awareness and the opportunity, as well as earmarking money for urban forestry. This is just another step that when you have a surplus and you have an opportunity to spend it on pieces that will beautify your city, I think those are great opportunities. And so this is a small amount of money that some years will be insignificant and some years will be significant. But it sort of sets us up for the future of continued opportunity without increasing taxes. So thanks for your support.
Okay, and with that, I'll call the question.
Press in favor.
All right, and that passes 4-0. Moving on to item 7, bylaw and policy review. 7.1, again, Chief Whiteway.
Thank you, Chair Berg, and I'll introduce Alex Shepard, Manager of Assets within the Financial Services Department. So Mr. Shepard does oversee our asset management practices here at the city and has some required updates for a couple policies.
Okay, thanks, Chief, and go ahead, Mr. Shepard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'll respectfully assume that everybody's reviewed policy 351, the tangible capital asset policy. Some key highlights for this is that the policy includes the integration of asset retirement obligations, or AROs, to ensure any legal or constructive obligations related to asset retirement, making sure that they're properly documented and accounted for. That is in alignment with the Public Sector Accounting Board Standard 3280. Additionally, the policy has been amended to support modernization, streamlining definitions, and ensuring compliance with updated standards. So in conclusion, these changes represent a robust, modernized TCA policy, and administration strongly recommends that council approve the policy as presented.
Okay. Councillor Bressie.
Great, thank you. Just a question I've got about, I'm looking at page 4 and 5, capitalization thresholds and capital asset classification. I'm not seeing anything there for software. So when we have a major new procurement that includes stand-up costs, are we just expensing that, or is that being capitalized?
Through the chair, if you don't mind, I'll just take that from an accounting perspective, Mr. Shepard, sorry. But that is under public sector accounting standards, we wouldn't be capitalizing software costs, so those are expensed. However, it is managed through our corporate asset management, but for accounting purposes, which is this policy is very accounting based, it is expensed.
So even the stand-up costs, the customization, the procurement is all expensed.
I'd have to go and look at actual projects to be certain, but we don't have software as a tangible capital asset. Hardware, those sorts of things within our IT services, yes, would translate into a capital asset if it meets the definition of a TCA here.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Bressie. I have a question. One of the things as I was going through here, I would be interested to see a list as a councillor of our capital assets, say over $250,000. Quite often I'm wondering, hey, do we own this building? Do we own this? Or is this contracted out? Just for my own peace of mind to help frame, what do we own, what don't we own? But also seeing the situation in one of our major cities where their transit fleet is in a severe deficit. of aging out and they don't have a plan to replace it. I'd be quite curious to know or see the plan of what assets we see, say, valued over $200,000 to $250,000 that will be aged out over the next 3 to 4 years, or basically a term, so that we can also see what's on the horizon, but also avoid situations like they're seeing in our capital. Chief Whiteway.
Thank you, Chair Berg. Absolutely, administration could provide said list. I do want to remind, I suppose, of the fleet renewal reserve specifically. We make sure that we are continuously monitoring useful life of assets, those sorts of things, and anticipate exactly those future costs. I know Mr. Shepherd works with each and every director on these things and has been working closely with fleet as well. One example, fire trucks are a very expensive one. They've gone up in price. I know that they are working on what does that look like in the future? How does it impact our reserve? So tomorrow, and every annual budget deliberation, you'll see we do put money aside for explicitly those purposes. And with the further development of corporate asset management, we will be able to better predict some of those things and ensure adequate funding going forward.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll qualify as well. I do have full faith in our administration. It's just for me personally, I would also like to be aware. So thank you. Any other questions from committee? Not seeing any. All right, I will take a motion. Councillor Bressie?
Yeah, happy to refer to council. Move that we refer this to council.
Okay, I will call the question.
Bressie in favor.
All right, and 7.2, Policy 360, Corporate Asset Management. Again, I'll throw it over to Chief Whiteway.
Thanks, Chair Berg, and I'll just pass it right to Mr. Shepherd. Thanks.
Okay, Mr. Shepherd.
All right, I'm back. I'll also respectfully assume that everybody's reviewed Policy 360, which is the Corporate Asset Management Policy. Some key updates for this. This revised policy reflects a major modernization effort through introduction of revisions to align with grant requirements, as well as emphasizing sustainability and collaboration, continuous improvement and forward thinking, risk-informed decision-making for asset replacement, and long-term resilience. Some new definitions have also been added for clarity, as well as natural or green infrastructure has been formally recognized in the policy to meet grant requirements. The policy also aligns with the ISO 55000 asset management standard, which is an international standard that focuses on optimizing performance, cost, and risk of assets throughout their life cycle. It also incorporates principles from the ISO 31000, which is the risk management guidelines for the planet, essentially. The updated policy also reflects input from internal review conducted with every director that is involved in asset management. This collaboration strengthened the policy to support the city's move towards a risk-based run-to-failure framework for its asset replacement. So in conclusion, Policy 360 represents a forward-looking, risk-based approach to asset management, and we're recommending that Council rescinds Policy 354 and approves 360 as presented.
All right. Any questions from committee? Not seeing any. I will look for a motion. Councillor Thiessen.
You got to be on your toes with Chair Berg at the helm. If you make eye contact, he's going to call your number, whether you want to make the motion or not. But I do want to make this motion, so I'd move that the Financial Administrative Services Committee recommend Council approve Policy 360, Corporate Asset Management, and rescind Policy 354, Asset Management. Just speaking to this motion, this is a long-standing endeavor, I believe, for the last two councils to ensure that we have a very well-run asset management policy and procedure about it. This sets that in place and erases maybe the hiccups of the old policy and sets us on a straight line path to, managing and taking care of our assets and mitigating any risks by keeping council informed at the time, as well as administration. So thank you so much for the work, Mr. Shepherd, and let's vote.
Okay, thanks. Any comments from committee? Seeing none, I will call the question.
Mayor Clayton in favor.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, and that passes 4-0. Thank you, Mr. Shepherd. And Chief Whitewave for outstanding items list.
Thank you, Chair Perk, and no changes to the outstanding items list. It's all on track.
Okay, thanks. And who's going to make eye contact with me? Councillor Bressie. Oh, Mayor Clayton?
So moved.
Okay, well, I'll call it Councillor Bressie first, so moved. All right. All in favor?
Mayor Clayton in favor.
All right, carried 4-0. And with that, I will adjourn the Financial Administration Services Committee meeting for November 12th.